incognito, so we have to start with a roll call first.
Commissioners Baloo,
Present.
Cotton, Hesner,
Here.
Heidner,
Here.
Mulcrone,
Here.
Gorig,
Here.
Chairman Morris.
Yes.
Quorum.
All right, this evening we have the consideration of a public hearing, case 2005, an application requesting the approval of a special use permit to allow a restaurant with drive-through service and approval of site and landscape plans. The special use permit will allow for the proposed restaurant with drive-through known as Shake Shack in the Melody Farm Shopping Center. And who's going to speak for the petitioner this evening?
I will be.
Okay, since this is a public hearing, can you identify yourself first?
Yes, my name is Jared Plassick, and I'm with Manhard Consulting.
Okay, if you could raise your right hand and swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this commission of the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth.
It is.
Okay, you are on.
Great. Okay, I will keep this relatively quick here. It's not an overly complicated request. Shake Shack is obviously a new tenant here at the Melody Farm Shopping Center, and as part of the COVID situation has decided to pursue a drive-through, or is what they're calling it, which is an app-through development here. So if I can scroll through, essentially the elevation of the building is going to remain relatively the same. The only modifications being the introduction of a drive-through window here. And other than that, there's not a whole lot of changes to the elevation. The east elevation changes slightly. The south elevation changes a little bit as well. But for the most part, same exact aesthetics as what you were seeing before, just the introduction of the window. Now, as I mentioned previously, there's an existing, the demolition plan here shows, I'm sorry, scrolling through a little quick on me. So they're removing a portion of this curb and the sidewalk in order to replace it with a drive-through application. As one of the requests of the village was to ensure that there is an island that delineates this drive-through traffic coming through here and looping around the building and then exiting out here. So there will be a wayfinding sign located here which directs traffic. But again, this is a little bit of a different application than your typical drive-through. They will not be, there is no ordering window or device here. You'll be ordering through an online app and then showing up to Shake Shack. So right now I will say they are working through a little bit of like the technological side of things, because this is, in my understanding, this might be their first one in the nation that they're rolling out here in Vernon Hills. So it's exciting for them and for you guys for this opportunity. And I know that they're using some kind of like a motion detector to alert them to when cars are coming, and they're working through the app. But again, it's going to be a little bit of a different application where there isn't necessarily going to be the same queuing that you would expect at a typical drive-through, because of the fact that there is no, ordering station here. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot of different changes here. The landscaping, there's an island being introduced. That landscaping is looking to follow the exact same landscape design as what was previously there at Shake Shack, and is homogeneous to the rest of the Melody Farm development. And with that, I'll open the floor to any questions.
Okay, any questions?
Yes.
So currently where people park, they're able to walk right onto the sidewalk and go inside. So what happens when, patrons park in that parking lot? How do they get back into the building now with this proposal?
One second, I'm trying to get the site plan up here.
They have to cross the lane?
Yes, they would have to cross the lane, but again, we would emphasize that there is not necessarily the same kind of traffic as what you'd expect at a regular drive-through as it relates to that lane. But yes, they would have to cross through here and make their way out to the sidewalk.
But that island is fully landscaped.
There would be a break potentially has been already discussed and considered if that's something that you're requesting. That's something that Shake Shack would be open to.
That's something that Panera did in Skokie, because the drive-through goes around the whole building in the
Right.
parking lot. And they put walkways with the stripe on the actual drive-through, so that
Sure.
you could tell there was, people could go through. And it's not like these cars are going fast, they'll let people
Right.
through. Just would be nice if you had a place
Okay.
that would identify that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
A designated crosswalk for someone to cross on?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's something that Shake Shack would be able to.
Now, on the opposite side of the drive-through
Yes.
stacking lane, from where the landscape island is there a division there between that and the parking to the south?
You're talking about between this drive aisle here and the parking? Is there a division? There's only a stripe in between them.
That's a stripe.
Yes, there's a
Gray area
stripe, there's a
is the
clear stripe and division in between them, and then that drive aisle still will remain the 24-foot wide drive aisle that it is today. So there's still sufficient space for turning maneuvers if you were to come in and park in these south-facing parking spots.
And would the drive-through not work if you moved the landscape island to the south on the other side of the drive-through lanes?
It would not be as effective because then you would have actually head-in cars immediately adjacent to the drive-through, which would actually probably be more dangerous if you were to switch sides of that, because then you'd have these cars which would not have a landscape break in between them and the drive-through. I don't think that would be quite as effective as the current layout.
Is that the only reason?
That's one of the main reasons, yes. And I think in terms of an actual turning maneuver, you'd have a hard time getting a car straight
Okay,
and then making its way
That's what
out.
I thought might be the.
Yeah, from an operational perspective, and I think just from a safety perspective, it probably makes more sense as is.
Are
Anybody
you
else?
go- Are you going to have spaces where if the person pulls up and it's not ready, like go to
Yeah.
number one and then we'll bring it out?
That's something that's already been discussed. As I understand it, Shake Shack will likely come back in front of the planning commission as well as the village board and potentially a signage variance to allow for such signage to delineate those kind of parking stalls. That would be waiting, similar to kind of what is out there at Lazy Dog today.
You're in a unique spot here, which I think is really good. You're sort of in a corner, so you can do stuff back there, and it really, not many people are going to see it, and it's hidden. I like the idea of not having an ordering lane, doing it on an app. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
Yeah, I'm very interested as well. I haven't really heard of a concept like this before, so I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I know that, Shake Shack sees this as a great potential first project and then one of many. I mean, I think if this concept works well, it's something that they would look to roll out across the nation.
And what's nice is if the parking lot, I think where you are, even when it's busy, is big enough that if somebody came there and goes, hey, let's get something drive-through because we don't want to walk in, they can sit in their car, order it on the app, and I'm assuming the app is going to say your order's ready.
Correct, yeah. It gives you a time when your order's ready.
That's not a bad idea.
Right, and then they're trying to set something up, because, I mean, it's one of those things where you're trying to also notify the actual Shake Shack itself. They might tell you it's ready, and you might be, running late 15, 20 minutes. So they're trying to figure out what's the most effective way for somebody who's in a car to potentially announce that they're, in that vicinity as well, so.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We already have one of these in town, McAllister's.
Yeah,
Deli.
McAllister.
Oh, do they really?
Oh, they have that same thing?
Same concept. You don't order there, you have to order on the
Interesting.
phone or drive up.
Okay.
I wonder, I don't know, even though I live there, near there, I think Shake Shack is going to have more business probably at lunchtime, almost like a Portillo's type thing, than McAllister's may. I don't know. So that'll be interesting when it gets busy.
Yeah, it will be. So we'll have to see how everything plays out for sure.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I do have a question, kind of working with Commissioner Heider's comment. First of all, I like the landscaping where it is. But on that drive aisle in, is it 24 feet from the north side of that shaded area to the parking stalls to the south?
Yes. It
So-
should be, so it's a 12-foot wide drive-through lane and then 24-foot wide drive aisle and then the parking stalls.
And so the striping is what, 2 feet?
I believe so.
So the shaded area? Oh, so it does-
The striping, sorry, that isn't accurate. I mean, it's just one solid stripe. There isn't necessarily a break. Now, if there's a desire from the plan commission for it to be a wider delineated stripe, it certainly could be. It's just something where they were looking at this as, we want to make sure that we have 6 foot for the minimum landscape island, 12 foot for a drive-through, and then there was 24 feet for a drive aisle. It kind of fit nicely
No,
with
I-
that.
I understand that, but, and I understand how the dimensions fit. But my question to you is, as cars are backing up, sometimes people don't pay quite as much attention as they should, and they'll hit that, if there was a curb there, they'd hit the curb, and it might prevent them from backing into that drive lane. So I guess I
think, but if,
I'm curious about your discussion on it.
Sure. So one of the reasons that we don't have something like that is you also have to think of this as if you were to with a traditional drive-through. Let's say you are in line or about to get in line, and then you realize, oh, my order's not ready, and now all of a sudden you wouldn't have a way to escape. So that allows for kind of that same bypass lane feel that you would typically have in drive-throughs. You see a lot of drive-through applications that don't have a curb, and they still have, I've done several projects myself in other municipalities that have this same kind of concept where you just have just the stripe in between the drive aisle where there's some parking. That exact same condition they just did, there's like I want to say a Wintrust Bank in Palatine, or a Wintrust owned bank in Palatine that just installed a drive-through that had a very similar application as this. So this isn't like a unusual layout as it relates to drive-throughs.
Well, it really is unusual. I mean, the idea of the bypass lane is not unusual. And giving vehicles a way to escape the queue is not unusual. This one is a little unusual because it's sharing a drive aisle without a divider. So I'm gathering how the dimensions worked out and how it was convenient to do it like this, and quite honestly, I don't know how you would do it any other way. So,
I mean, I guess the question would be is if you think there needs to be more of a dividing space, I think from a concrete curb perspective, I don't know if that's something that it kind of removes the bypass. Is it something where it makes more sense that maybe that drive-through lane is 11 feet wide there and you've got a 1 foot stripe width?
maybe, I'm offering that up for discussion, and the reason being is sharing the overall drive aisle and giving the opportunity for cars to just veer off almost anywhere is kind of it's concerning to me a little bit, and especially at the end where 3 is turning to the north, when it could go straight.
Well, keep in mind too, sorry, this signage plan's outdated. I was just zooming back out because it showed it better, but there's a landscape
Okay, so
island.
there's landscape aisle.
There's something to prevent that car from just going straight into a handicap stall or that series of parkings.
Okay.
And that's something that actually Mike Atkinson and the village engineering staff were the ones who had instituted that island here to prevent exactly what you're talking about. So that provides some of that protection for those upfront stalls.
Okay, so what I just mentioned was the first component of the discussion. The second component of the discussion is you exit, why are you including such a long striped area to try to direct cars as far north as possible when really they can just veer off and go in any direction they choose?
Well, again, it's trying to direct traffic to go around and make their way out through this drive aisle rather than trying to force, rather than drivers trying to do some kind of a U-turn here.
Do you think it's safer? Did you do it because of safety
Yes.
and decision-making, because people don't necessarily make the best decisions?
This I think helps direct them and it prevents them from feeling compelled to, upon
U-turn.
exiting, to do any kind of a U-turn or what would be a more dangerous maneuver. So I think that helps guide it, but we didn't want to extend the landscape island just simply because, at that point you're looking at some kind of a concrete island. And there's also the fact that in that area there's a grease trap that's existing right here today.
Oh.
So part of it was trying to stop short of the grease trap, which is an additional expense that
Well,
it doesn't necessarily.
you just gave us a good reason,
Right.
okay? If there is a good reason to stop it right there, that's a very good reason to stop it right there. Other than that, I would say, you know, you'd want to extend it maybe another, 8 feet or so to direct them further north. But if you've got that large grease trap below the surface, then it makes all the sense in the world to stop your curb there.
Right.
Does anybody else have any concerns about the divider from that queuing lane?
You know,
I kind of have a suggestion, I don't know the feasibility of this, but if you were to shift those 9 spaces along the southeast, 3 or 4 feet to the south, you could create a 3 or 4 foot wide landscape or buffer strip along parking spaces 4, 5, and 6. Kind of, right now, the parking is perpendicular to the building, but if you were to splay it a little bit along 60,
Are you saying follow the property line?
yeah, if you were to splay it a little bit, those 9 to the southeast, push them back a little bit, you could add your island.
Yeah, I understand what you're referring to. I think I have knowledge of there being a swale in this area that's taking stormwater, as well as, some storms are in that area. I think that would be a rather large additional expenditure, just.
this
as-
looks just like the drive-through at Taco Bell on 83. As you're going through ordering, they order, and then you go to the window. The drive-through, the parking is just right across from it. There's no island, there's nothing. There's just parking spaces, and people back out.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
really
I would say
personally
that I
don't see
have.
that as
se-
an issue.
But I'd say I've seen this condition in numerous places around the area.
See, I agree with Commissioner Hesner that people will find ways to do things because that's just nature. And someone who drives a car, not a monster truck, which is primarily what is driven in the suburbs, the one in Taco Bell, I know what you're talking about, and it works fine because it's not very busy.
Mhm.
This is much busier. And what's the width of these spaces?
The width of the parking stall
Yeah.
spaces themselves,
Yeah.
I want to say 8 feet, but,
Okay, and you're then going to tell me that it's village standard, and I know that. The problem is with the growth of cars, which are now really trucks, it seems that people have a hard time getting in and getting out of them. And that's why I think there's an issue then, trying to back out with this traffic, because also, for instance, the McDonald's is the same way in Mundelein. Nobody seems to really understand where the drive-through lane is, and they pull wherever they want around it. So I'm not sure you're going to really maintain that separation that you're talking about. The other question I have is this. It's all great to have a business plan that says there's no ordering at the window. How do you tell people that's the case?
well, I mean, they're going to do it with signage, but I understand you're going to have the occasional traffic that shows up to the window and thinks that it's going to
Right.
have an order. So, I mean, there's an attendant who's there who will be able to direct said traffic and tell them that this isn't a drive-through. I mean, that will happen on
So-
occasion. There's
so
no
is
way
there-
to prevent it.
So
What's
what
the
is-
signage then?
Yeah, what does your signage say?
Right,
I believe it says
drive-through.
drive-through, or app-through, order.
That says pickup.
Right.
I believe it does say pickup as well, yeah.
Well, that's all it should say, probably.
Yeah. I don't think it says.
I don't know if I have that slide up here.
So, two things. One, Jason's Deli used to have something very similar to this. We actually approved their signs way back when for pickup. I believe they came in front of us, and we approved the verbiage on it, and it was, had similar, I mean, you weren't allowed to order at the window. You had to call ahead, and you picked it up. Secondly, on that curb, to Commissioner Mulgrim's point, instead of removing the whole curb and moving it out 3 feet, what if you were just to go angle parking and go like 45 or 60 degree, whatever an angle is, coming in? That way, when the people back up, they're not backing directly into the traffic, they could back out and
Yeah, so,
would miss it a lot more. That way, there's no expense to changing any of the infrastructure. You're just looking at some simple restriping.
well,
You might lose a space or two.
How would you
How do you get out?
yeah,
Yeah.
so I would caution you, angled parking requires by necessity longer parking stalls. Because when they're at an angle, you actually need more space. So a typical, 90-degree parking stall might be 19 feet deep. In order to make an angled parking stall work, it ends up having to be like 21 feet of asphalt. So you end up actually you would need to still push the curb out a couple of feet. So unfortunately, it doesn't still work with that. It's a great idea in concept, but unfortunately,
Couldn't get out.
Problem with it is
Not-
the angle, it's just that it's not a one-way there, there's no turnaround.
Right.
There's no way to escape.
but I understand your point where that would at least force, if that's the concern, it's less likely for them to have such a,
Correct, it would keep traffic all moving in one direction.
right.
Just a thought.
I just think but the problem would just be is how would you get into, there's no, like he said, there's no turnaround, there's no real way to force traffic to effectively park with an angle. There's no way to come in here and if you park this way, then you're backing out and you're coming down here and then I don't know how you're turning around. So that's the problem. It really does need to be two ways so that you can come in here, park, and then back up and turn around the other way.
Okay, anybody else?
Pre-pandemic era, how crowded was the parking lot here?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Before the era of the coronavirus, how was the parking situation? What percentage of your parking lot did you use?
So it looks like this, I don't know if you can really see through it. Can I get to the internet here? Oh, it's not letting me click on it. So previously, what there was in this area is there was, instead of, it might pull up here, but maybe not. Let's see if I can get back to it. So instead of this landscape island and drive-through, there was instead just 2 rows of head-end parking. So there was say 6 or 7 stalls facing north here that both use this same shared 24-foot drive aisle. So you could argue that, if your concern is somebody backing up and hitting a car coming through the drive-through, I mean, they could have backed up and hit a car that's, sitting there as well. I mean, it's the same traffic condition as it is there. I understand that you have to be maybe a little bit more aware because a car may be coming in, but realistically, there's no change in turning maneuvers there.
That's actually a good question. So I wonder what the difference would be from the old parking lot? What was the width of that?
It's the same width. The drive aisle width has not changed.
Okay.
It's not gotten smaller as a result of these improvements. These improvements were basically repurposing some parking stalls here and turning them into a drive-through. The actual drive aisle width itself is the exact same.
Okay.
So the argument can be made in any condition. It's the exact same risk in terms of somebody backing up. They could have hit actually it's more of a risk because there's an actual parked car there that they could hit. So it's more likely in that condition for them to actually impact somebody else.
If I may, Chairman Morris, there's a page in there that shows the existing site plan. Some of you may have noted that already. It's right at the beginning. It's C5. We actually took a copy out of the original permit drawings, and it shows the 24-foot aisle, and then it shows existing parking as it is now. So they're maintaining the 24-foot width. Also, in addition to the striping that we've been talking about, you've probably noticed that the drive-through lane itself will be concrete, whereas the parking field is asphalt, so that'll help further delineate where you're supposed to be if you're going into the drive-through aisle. Just a couple of points I wanted to make for information.
So in other words, other than these cars are running, we approved it once, and this is just changing those parking spaces to be the other direction.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Where I was going with my question was, what was your utilization of your parking before
So-
the pandemic?
Sure. I'm not sure what the exact utilization is, but I can tell you that the Shake Shack participates like every other tenant in the center in a shared parking agreement, and that there is the ability, I think the net loss of parking stalls here might have been 5 or 6 or something like that. But it's still within the realm of what's agreed to, and there's still a surplus of stalls for the overall parking center.
Not sure that's even though, even though they can't fit any cars in the parking spots over
I
there.
think the question isn't so much, is there adequate parking under the ordinance because of the shared parking arrangement? But based upon this particular site, how much utilization is of the parking stalls on the site?
I do not have an answer for you at this moment. That's something, though, that we can follow up internally and maybe try to get back to you on.
Maybe we can use an apocryphal answer, just by observation. I mean, does it seem full? Does it not seem full? You know,
Elisa may be able to speak better to that than myself, to be honest.
yeah. We have to,
Do you need to swear me in?
yes, please. Do you want to give your name first? I'm sorry.
Elisa Madigan with Regency Centers.
Okay. We'd ask that you raise your right hand and swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this commission of the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth.
Yes.
Excellent.
So we have not had any issues as the shopping center owner with over parking in this area. In addition to the stalls that are directly on the Shake Shack lot, there is a row of stalls just adjacent to that there's actually 2 rows on that south side of the REI building. So there are excess stalls in the area. So we as owners don't see any issues. The Shake Shack building itself is pretty small. So my recollection was that it was more than adequately parked based on the building and seating, in addition to the shared parking. Hopefully that
And in
answers
that
your
area,
question.
with the whole development, obviously, you get to the center and there's more parking issues because there's more places to go. You don't see a lot of people going really over to this corner to park, to go elsewhere, other than maybe REI. Is that kind of true, or unless they're forced to park here?
Yeah, I'd say majority of folks that go to Shake Shack and park at Shake Shack are going to Shake Shack, opposed to in the center of the shopping center, there's a lot more what we call cross shopping,
Yeah.
where someone is getting something to eat and then going into a store. That doesn't mean someone can't go to Shake Shack and then go to REI or Nordstrom or somewhere else, but I think most people, when they go to Shake Shack, they're parking there and eating there and leaving the center.
Okay, anybody else?
Thank you, Elisa.
Okay, you want to add anything? No. Before we have to open it technically up for public comment. Okay, I don't see anyone reaching for the microphone, so we can close the public comment. We note that notices were provided and that there were no responses, it appears. We also note that you provided the section 18.3 responses for the special use permit. Anything else we need to know about this? Okay. I guess the question is, are we approving a special use or are we amending one?
You're approving one, they don't have it's,
Or PUD?
no, you're approving the special use for the drive-through, and for a drive-through pickup window.
Okay, all right. So we have a standing motion to recommend approval on this commission. Here would be of a special use permit to allow a restaurant, Shake Shack, with a drive-through pickup-only window, subject to the conditions in the staff report, which are conditions 1 through 5. In addition, I believe you agreed that you would investigate, and I think we've said it should be a condition, designated markings across the landscape islands for walk-through to the building from the east and the south parking lots. And I think the other thing is, Commissioner Heidner also mentioned that it would be subject to providing the signage language that there's no ordering, it's pickup only in this lane. Anything I missed? Okay, we need a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Who's the second, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Gorai. Okay, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. Okay. Secondly, we have a motion to recommend approval of preliminary and final site and landscape plans, subject to the conditions that were just articulated, 1 through 5 in the staff report, and then 6 and 7 that we just mentioned. We need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. Okay. Anything else?
Motion passes.
Okay, motion passes.
Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have any development review?
Yeah, by the way, that was the sign that says app orders only, if I may,
Something.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's either online or app orders only. That's what we're looking for. Okay, thanks. I'll make sure it gets in there. Development reviews, we have just a couple of things to talk about. Regarding the mall, you guys probably know by now, it's broken up into different parts. There's the Carson's parcel that we thought would be number one. The Dix deal fell through. Now the Sears parcel seems to be the one that'll come through to you first. There's also the 3-lot subdivision where we have certain approvals in place, but as they line up the individual leases for each of those sites, there's 3 of them, they'd have to come back to you guys for approval. We don't see that coming forward right away because of COVID-19, but one day we will see that. The Sears site, which is the mixed-use part, that's going forward regardless. We had completed the first technical review, and then after that, they changed partners with the residential portion of it and architects, and have, unfortunately, all the review that led up to that, as far as the technical review, we need to actually start that over again. But the good news is that their new team includes Focus, which is the company that built the residential portion at Melody Farm very successfully. And a lot of the concerns that we were raising at staff level during the technical review process, Focus is doing a really good job responding to that. That boulevard that leads up to the mall from Denny's area, that'll be now much wider. So there's a lot more room for outdoor dining, plenty of width for pedestrians to still walk along the boulevard without being so close to the outdoor dining area. A much larger park when you get immediately adjacent to the mall, and those kinds of things. We're expecting their submittal for this revised plan Friday. We'll probably spend the next 6 to 8 weeks going through 2 technical review processes. We would expect a public hearing before you guys sometime in early October is what we're thinking. And that syncs up with when, on the business side of it, they'll be getting closer to having the board consider the TIF, which is a part of the development. So that's moving forward. The other bigger project is, just went to the board last week for concept presentation and received favorable reviews. It is a age-restricted luxury apartment development that would be constructed on the former AMC property south of Hawthorne Square Mall. Greystar is the developer. They've completed a number of developments across the nation successfully with this type of use, so we're just at the beginning stages there. We may have that in front of you by the end of this year or early 2021. Other than that, we have another couple of smaller projects that would include Firestone up at the shops at Greg's Landing. We're moving toward concept presentation to the board. If not at the August 11th meeting, then the first one in September. And then that would also include a QSR use as part of that. It would necessitate a reconfiguration of the detention pond that's located at the northwest corner of Greg's Parkway and Milwaukee Avenue. So those are the things that you may see in the more immediate future that we have right now.
Okay. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of the May 27th commission meeting with the deletion of, I think it's condition 6, because we didn't approve it with a condition regarding the gazebo. We actually said no gazebo. Okay, so we need a second for those revised minutes.
A second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Those pass. And then finally, unless there's anything else, we have a motion to adjourn. We need a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We are adjourned. Good night.